A successful rebellion is perhaps nothing short of the most glorious sights in human history. They herald the end of tyranny as the will of the people takes charge over their own land, over their own flesh and blood. It is the great revival of a nation's spirit, but not everyone wishes for them to succeed, for more often than not, what follows is simple catastrophe. And in some cases, even those that lead a rebellion hope for nothing else but their very own downfall, even as they rally their own troops and inspire them to rise up. Such is the nature of Camelot's downfall, the end of King Arthur's reign. Something destined to happen, ordained by the world, while mired in many tragedies. The righteous king that loved her country met her end at the hands of the vile bastard child, the usurper of the throne that demanded kingship. So it goes that she was driven to her betrayal out of a desire to overcome King Arthur's hatred of her creator, Morgan, the witch, wishing to prove herself and rise above her cursed birth. But never once did the king harbour hatred of her. She was simply unfit to be a king. The true nature of Mordred Pendragon is that of a ticking time bomb, cursed to rise up against King Arthur, no matter the circumstance. An artificial being with an inherently short lifespan, designed solely for one ultimate goal, and meant to perish afterwards as soon as possible. Her love and admiration for her father is exactly what will turn to much hatred and frustration, no matter how much love and attention she would receive. The reason she desired the throne is not because she had any notion of true kingship, but because her father was the king. She held no true ideal with which to rule a country, but could not help herself but admire her father's way of life and their effort. She does not wish to be known by or be treated based on her appearance, the body she obtained from birth. No, she chooses to be defined by her accomplishments, an ideal born from observing the struggle of King Arthur, all to make her father proud through her own merit, given how her own flesh and blood was crafted from an evil witch. A knight before everything else that once spoke of the desire to wear Britain's crown. The king she admired was one devoid of egotistical and selfish ambitions. Promising wealth and land, they rope others into the illusion of a grand dream, only for it to lead to nowhere. But her father was different. She went to great lengths so that many could smile. To Mordred, she surely was the most noble and just king to roam the earth. What she had hoped is to make her king proud by becoming a worthy heir, but such a thing could never come to pass. The desire to become king was nothing more than a stepping stone for her to get noticed. Once she would become a ruler, ruin was sure to follow, both through her incredibly finite lifespan and her overall lack of vision. At the end, even Mordred realized this truth, that what she wanted was never to overtake her father through rebellion, but to rightfully become heir. Yet such an option never was and never will be available to her, as she was merely born for the sake of an evil plan. Already she has realized that she has no personal reason to cling to the desire to be a king. Her rebellion, her attempted usurpation, all built simply on the desire to be noticed, to be acknowledged. Yet in doing so, she doomed herself to never be acknowledged as a worthy heir, but solely as the knight of treachery, the bane of King Arthur, the one that spelt Camelot's end. A fate engraved onto her, just like the curse she had received from Morgan, one that would ensure one last lethal strike, even after Mordred's own end. And yet, she keeps up a prideful appearance. Even after all the reflection, she boasts of her ability and desire to build a kingdom that surpasses King Arthur's. If she is forever remembered as the foul villain of Camelot by history, then she must never be perceived as possessing regrets. She must be worthy of her title, otherwise she would drag down King Arthur's own name. That is why what she truly feels cannot be disclosed to anyone. It is her own way of showing remorse and penance. What she feels towards her father is a great many things. Adoration, love, and hatred are perhaps the simplest. At the same time, she feels great shame and unworthiness. The desire to triumph over her father, that which she boasts the loudest about, is also the most hollow. Even then, she is willing to put her life on the line, simply to back up her word. Her love that had turned into potent destructive rage was without a doubt genuine. So much so, that even now she could only ever dream of viewing the Sword of Selection, unable and unwilling to grasp it. Yes, regret is something that no doubt continues to eat away at her, and perhaps she should have received counselling and advice for her situation back when she was still alive. She might have very well simply ended her own life before fulfilling her cursed destiny. That is why, when presented with the chance to make up for her mistake in any shape or form to her father, one that has her even abandon her own dignity and pride as a knight, she is more than willing to leave those behind. Her appearance in the Camelot Singularity is the definite proof of that truth. Even though the person before her barely resembled her father, it was an opportunity that perhaps might have never come again. The Knight of Rebellion, reduced to a mere pitiful disposable fighter that offered up their soul in exchange for the strength to serve, even knowing she would never be part of the ideal Camelot of the Lion King. She had no qualms in abandoning everything that could have ever made her resemble Arthur's heir. It was this one genuine wish of wanting to serve loyally to the one she had betrayed, just this one single time. A wish that would have ended with nothing less than her complete destruction and abandonment by the Lion King. And knowing all of this, feeling the day of her summoned soul with every battle, she still chose to serve. Indeed, now knowing the full extent of her own foolishness in the past, she chose to offer up the life she had declared unworthy, no different than the suicide that was expected by the Mage of Flowers. For Mordred Pendragon, every single dream she could ever have will remain out of her reach. At least, such is the current state of all of her efforts, not just because of her inability, but a fundamental unwillingness to ever truly grasp them. Just like with the Sword of Selection, in the end, she still lacks the dignity and confidence that would fit a king, for she considers herself a third-rate knight by her own admittance. But is it wrong to wish happiness to those that you have wronged? To live for the sake of others and not oneself? Any worth she might have, she wishes to offer to anybody else, someone that could accept her, someone that could handle her ever-present immaturity. How wonderful it would be if such a world would come to fruition, where even a cursed being like her, meant to be left behind by her evil mother and her just father, could realize the goal of another despite her short foolish life. Ultimately, calling her a villain is redundant, for she is already aware of her sins the most out of all of us. Having nobody to cling to, no one that accepts her, she finds herself questioning why she has been born, as her regret silently eats away at her with no hopes of atonement. As a homunculus, her body developed faster than her mind could, after all, so the time she perhaps needed to learn about the world was never afforded to her. However, even if she may be wild and unrestrained, appear immature and foolish, she is nothing less than King Arthur's copy in flesh and blood. Said king, known well for her own wild outbursts and occasional immaturity herself. Perhaps one could argue that an aspect of their spirit overlaps as well. To Mordred, her own life means very little, as she wishes for something far beyond her capacity. The right to apologize is something she finds she does not possess, as she continues to be driven onward by her excessive self-destructive passion. Behind the pretense of stubborn pride, behind the obligation of continuing a doomed rebellion, she continues dreaming of such a kingdom, no different than her father's vision, that which she herself had toppled and destroyed long ago. Perhaps a day will come when she can even wield her sword without any doubt to her goal, giving her the ability to take the first step away from her profound regret and destined hatred of her former, yet eternal, king. Thank you for watching this analysis video on Mordred, and as always a huge thank you to Sparrow for providing me with this lovely script. We are currently at 100 subscribers on YouTube, so that's a nice little milestone. I hope we can continue creating content for you guys to watch and enjoy. But until the next manifestation, where hope and despair gathers once more.